Hoyoverse found the best formula to milk us dry. Hello, it's Joe and welcome back. There is a fundamental difference between making a character strong and making a character incomplete. If you look back at the 6 years lifespan of Genshin Impact, the community has spent a massive amount of time arguing about power creep. We look at the raw numbers of 1.0 Diluc and we look at the raw numbers of 4.0 Alakino and we say,
Hello there.
Look at the graphs, the line went up. But Hoyoverse is a multi-billion-dollar company. They do not view the game through the lens of the spreadsheets. They viewed it through the lens of the conveyor belt. And over the last two major arcs, the developers realized a terrifying financial truth. Power creep doesn't actually make them the most money. But because a player with a hyper-invested, insanely strong DPS can just stop pulling. What makes them the most money is the installment plan. Today, right on the corner of Snezhnaya, and sitting in the immediate wake of the Sandrone, I want to look at the masterclass in psychological monetization that Hoyoverse has slowly built. Because of the breadcrumbs are laying right there on the ground in front of us, history is about to repeat itself, and most of the player base is going to walk right into the trap. To understand the case we're in right now, we have to look at the open field we started in. In Genshin 1.0, the meta was defined by Lego bricks. Characters like Xingqiu, Xiangling, Bennett, and Sucrose weren't just strong, they were universal. You could take almost any 5 stars in the game, drop them into a soup of those 4-star units, trigger basic vaporize or melt, and flawlessly clear the hardest content Tevat has to offer. This was incredible for player acquisitions, but it was an absolute disaster for Hoyoverse's long-term balance sheet. Why? Because it granted the player high modular agency. If you owned Bennett or Xingqiu, your account was permanently safe. You didn't need to pull for a new support for years. And then, when 2.0 Inazuma hits, the devs tried to crack this by pushing raw DPS carry weight, accumulating in the Raiden Shogun. Raiden Shogun was the absolute dream, a top-tier DPS and a universal battery sub-DPS wrapped into one slot. But even then, what did the player base do? We just plugged her right back into the 1.0 Lego set and created Raiden National. The players still own the sandbox. Even when 3.0 brought Sumeru and Dendro, the power spike was massive. But it was a democratic power spike. Aggravate and Hyper Bloom raised the damage floor for free-to-play accounts instantly, but it didn't lock the doors behind them. You could run Dendro main characters and a standard Kale and a Cookie Shinobu and absolutely dismantle the Abyss. Up until the end of 3.0, Hoyoverse sold us ingredients and let us cook whatever we wanted. Then came Fontaine, peak cinema, bolder designs, and a complete pivot to the unit philosophy. In 4.0, the developers realized they couldn't convince you to replace your 1.0 or 2.0 teams with standard upgrades. So they introduced the soloists, Neuvillette, Alakino, Navia, Cloran. These characters didn't just play in Tevat, they went to town in it. Neuvillette was so inherently broken that his best team for a long time was just himself and a finger to hold down the left mouse button. And anchoring this entire era was Furina, the ultimate absolute ceiling raiser for the universal damage. We felt godlike, but behind the scenes, the developers had hit a brick wall as well. When you release characters like Neuvillette or Alakino, you created a fatal game design paradox. How do you sell the next DPS to a guy who already has Neuvillette? If you make a unit that does 20% more damage than Neuvillette, the game's internal math snaps in half. The numbers become so high that older units become literally unplayable. Player base revolts and the game dies. They couldn't scale the numbers up anymore, so they decided to change the rules. Enter Natland. On the surface, 5.0 was sold to us as the Exploration King update. We got Mualani hitting hyper nukes, we got Shilonen arriving in the most busted shred support since Kazuha, we got Eon-san. It felt like a fresh, high-octane version of a classic Genshin loop. But pay very close attention to the late Natland cycle, because this right here, this was the beginning of the end of free-to-play. This was the point of no return. With the launch of Mawika and the arrival of Skirk, Hoyoverse quietly rolled out the brand new blueprint called the bespoke triad. Instead of releasing a 5-star DPS that works with your existing account, they began releasing a 5-star DPS whose kit contains a deliberate engineered void. And to fill that void, they don't offer you a universal support. They introduce one specific dedicated 5-star sub DPS and one hyper-specific dedicated 5-star support. Think about the psychology of this trap. You pull for the new shiny DPS, you take them into the abyss with your old supports, they perform fine, but they feel a little clunky, a little energy starved, a little something missing, incomplete somehow. A patch or 2 patches later, Hoyo drops a dedicated sub DPS, you pull them, suddenly your DPS feels good. Then another patch later, the bespoke supports drops, you pull them, and suddenly the team transforms into this ungodly, biblical accurate lawnmower. You didn't just pull a character. Hoyoverse successfully put you on a 3-patch payment plan just to experience the unit at 100% operational capacity. And the worst part, it worked. The community pulled for this trap, which brings us to the current reality. Version 6.0, the Lunar Arc. The master plan is fully constructed now. The concept of mixing element is dead, and it has been replaced by the anchor system. And sitting at the center of its web is Columbina. Let's look at the 3 dominant Lunar specialization running the meta right now. First, Lunar Bloom. Who do we have here? Nefer as a main DPS. We have Lauma as a dedicated Heartlock support. We have Nahida acting as a legacy engine. And the anchor holding entire reaction together is Columbina. And yes, before the comments type out, sure, I know can technically sit at Bina's chair, but let's be real. 98% of the player base running this comp is using Columbina. Secondly, look at the Lunar Charge. You have Nefer acting as a non-negotiable dedicated support paired with Farina, anchored again by the top-end driver, Columbina. Finally, look at the team that literally performed necromancy and dragged the Geo element out of the grave. Lunar Crystallized, an utterly broken concept, but how does it work? It works because they printed Linnea as a strictly mandated, tailor-made support for Zubai, anchored once again by Columbina. Do you see a pattern now? Look at those 9 slots across those 3 teams. How many 1.04 stars do you see sitting in them? 0. How much mix and match potential exists in Lunar Crystallized? Try putting Albedo or Zhongli in Linnea's slot and watch your team's overall output drop by 40%. They have successfully taken the Lego set away and replaced it with Warhammer 40k figurines. To buy the specific squad, you paint them with specific colors, and they only talk to each other. The reason I'm recording this video right now is because we're sitting right before Sandrone's banner and at the borderline of entering Snezhnaya, with the borders of Snezhnaya looming on the map, and is because the developers have laid the exact same breadcrumbs down for us again. They just introduced the new elemental reaction called Stellar Conduct. Does the name sound familiar to you? It should, because it is the exact same thematic rollout we saw when Nefer dropped to set up Lunar Charge. Let's do a quick history check. Was Nefer viewed as a broken must-pull unit the day her banner went live? No! The community looked at her, called her niche, called her skippable, and held on to their primo gems. And then the dedicated Lunar drivers arrived later. The puzzle snapped together, and it hits the Genshin community so hard, millions of players spend the next 4 months kicking themselves for skipping her. Now look at Sandrone. Will Sandrone feel broken next week? I don't think so. In fact, I'm willing to bet my entire account on it. She's going to feel like an alternate option. People on Reddit are going to post 15-paragraph essays explaining why you don't need Sandrone. Do not listen to them. Sandrone is an empty socket. She is sitting there deliberately starved for specific mechanics, holding her breath until version 7.1 or 7.2 drops a bespoke Snezhnayan support, explicitly coded to tell Yayamiko and Shishi to pack their bags and sit on the bench forever. I dare anyone to tell me I'm wrong. Set a remind me on this video for 6 months from today. I dare you. We have to be honest with ourselves about the game we're playing in 2026. We used to pull characters because we loved their stories or because their animation were cool, and we trusted that the game's universal physics would let us make them work. Today, we pull for a unit because Hoyoverse landed us the left wing on an airplane, and we know that if we don't buy the right wing soon, the whole thing is going to sit there in the hangar gathering dusts. It is a brilliant, ruthless, incredibly effective way to run a live service economy, and it is milking the player base dry. I am pulling for Sandrone, not because she's the queen of the meta today, but because I can see the golden cage they're building for her tomorrow. If you want to watch me to test this Snezhnayan theory live as the patches roll out, hit the subscribe button. If you think I'm wearing a tinfoil hat and Sandrone is actually just a safe modular free-to-play unit, drop your doom post in the comments below. Hit the like button on your way down, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.